office of County Treasurer was one of the foundational offices first created by the Texas Constitution in 1846. With its description being the chief custodian of money management, it is an important office for checks and balances of the millions of dollars of taxpayers' money that pass through county government. The county treasurer is chief custodian of county finances, receiving all money belonging to the county. As fiscal officer, the treasurer invests all funds available in accordance with the commissioner code of the county. The county treasurer is responsible, specifically in Fort Bend County, he is responsible for the maintenance and reconciliation of all checking amounts under the care of the county treasurer and the disbursement of all county funds. County treasurer is bonded $500 to $100,000, and the statute requires the completion of 20 hours of continuing education every 12 months. The office staff is also insured with a blanket bond. The Fort Bend County Treasurer serves on the investment committee, bail bond boards, and liaison for all county departments with the county depository, payroll, employees, elected officials, election workers, collections for justice of peace courts, and community supervision and correction departments also serve as treasurer for. Fort Bend County Flood Control, Water Supply Corporation, Fort Bend Parkway Road District, Fort Bend Drainage District, Fort Bend Toll Roads receives and deposits all county revenues. It acts as the chief liaison between the county and the depository bank, like I said earlier. Disburses funds upon the order of commissioner courts. Like we said earlier, it maintains claim register of all claims against the county. Records receipts and expenditures and reconciles bank statements as well, currently 150 plus primary accounts with additional associated investment accounts. It also submits monthly reports on county refinance to the members of the Commissioner Court. Toll road operations reciprocating fees for tolls and account maintenance, bail bond board, original collateral retention, and a lot more. Why am I telling you this? Because today we have got Bill Rickett in our studio, who has served for the county, is up for election again. We have Bill Rickett with us. Thank you so much, Bill, for joining me today. You are a treasurer for Fort Bend County. You have been serving them for a while. And I was just reading through your profile. You have even worked for oil and gas in Norway. So how was that experience from there to the county and being a treasurer? Tell us about your journey.
Okay, so I actually had, I ran a business unit for our Norwegian seismic oil and gas exploration company, and was responsible from everything from sales to operations to the controller, all the finance and delivering the numbers.
That's like a high profile job.
Yeah.
And then from being so much into numbers and delivering and the strategies and all to Fort Bend County. How does that happen?
It was a simple journey. As the oil and gas industry was turned down this last time, I had ridden, the ups and downs, and running a large organization, we were making cuts, and then finally I decided it was time for me to, take a package and leave. And actually, at the time, this was years ago, my wife had a company she was running at the time, she owned, and I was helping her with it, so I was doing that.
Normally in a campaign, there is a point when you see other people not doing their job or not delivering, and then at that is a point when you feel, okay, now I think something needs to be done, and you take a lead and you go for a public office. So something like that happened in your life?
No, actually I was, as my wife was about to sell her company, and I was looking at what I was going to do. I started asking around within the community, because I didn't want to go back to traveling internationally.
That must be the daunting part,
yeah,
actually.
I used to go all over, we had offices all over the world, and I used to...
a lot of travel.
A lot of travel, and...
you were getting tired of it.
I was looking to do something locally, so I was talking to a lot of business owners and different people in the county, and everybody kept saying, well, with your background, Jeff Council, the current county treasurer, he's retiring. You ought to consider doing that. And I kept saying no.
So you just decided like this is a good time to just...
I kept saying no and no, and then it just kept coming up, and then finally one morning I woke up thinking, hey, this is meant to be.
Okay, so and you took a dive.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me ask you this question, like, because when we were emailing, so you were kind of tutoring me actually, because I didn't know what the county treasurer does. So the whole show today is like, I want you to tell us about your campaign, how is it working, and how as a district clerk, as a treasurer of the county, of such a big county which is so diverse as well at the same time. But tell us, like, how do you, like, residents of Fort Bend County are now eligible to receive, this is a technical question, to receive funds from the Texas Unclaimed Property Program.
They've always been eligible. What happens is there's two sets of pools of funds in each county. Like, for example, all the checks that we write, if they never get cashed or delivered to individuals, then they come back to the county and they end up in a pool of money, everything that's under $100 sits at the county forever.
Okay.
And if it's over $100 after a year, we send it off to the state to go into the big pool. Now, at the state, you have all kind of money that's maybe from insurance companies, mortgage companies, or whatever, that was never delivered to a resident. That they don't know what to do with it. They send it off to the state, and the state holds that money. So that sits there, forever, until somebody claims it. So, so what we've done in the past year is, I've been looking at this,
specifically during the pandemic.
And this outstanding liability we have, sitting in our hands here that we owe people money. So it's like, how can we go about making a big push to get that back into the rightful owner's hands? So that's when we started. So there's, like,
right now,
program.
Correct me, like, if I'm wrong, like, there are like $7 billion right now with the county. So with the
not with the county, I think the state has.
With the state has. Okay, with the state. So how would you, if you have given an option, because you're also in a campaign, so what sectors do you think the county needs help?
As far as
with the money, like specifically when there is an inflation happening and things are situation.
So the county's financial situation is, one of the things I'm concerned about is, we're going through the budgeting process for next year right now. And if you look at inflation numbers, we're at 8-9%, and it could get worse. And we really aren't taking those type numbers into account, I think, in the budgeting process, because it makes it very difficult and painful. So it's going to be interesting to see as the year goes on, once we do adopt a budget, what happens if inflation does, cause us some major concerns.
So our county can be safeguarded, all the people can be safeguarded in certain way, in certain programs, you think? I need your opinion for that.
In programs?
Like, there are, like, funds available, like during the pandemic, there were, like, funds available.
Okay, so you talk about the federal money that's come through that was basically for assisting people during the pandemic and the economic downturn caused by the shutdowns and everything else that occurred. So there's still a significant amount of money that the county needs to spend. I think in the last Commissioner's Court they talked about it's about $70 million that needs to be allocated for expenses. We have spent pretty heavily on what I would call social assistance, social programs
during the pandemic
in Fort Bend County.
Yes, Fort Bend County did, actually.
Now, if you look statewide, a lot of other counties have tried to focus on investing some of that money into infrastructure and things to reduce their cost in the future. Which helps, all the residents long term versus short term. So I think we've had, more of a focus on short-term fulfillment.
So you suggest to go for long-term focus.
I personally would rather see do more long-term investments
to create more stability in the county.
And we've brought on lots of positions on under this money and under grant money over the last 2 years. That what do we do when that money runs out, right?
Yeah.
How do we pay for those positions? How do we pay? It's a big concern as to how you keep that momentum. Now, typically, in a normal times, you have grant money comes along, and you may create a few positions with grant money.
Correct.
And then the county's growing, so then you grow into needing those positions.
Correct.
But it's so many, and some of them are so specialized. That are you really going to need these specific people 2 years, 3 years down the road when there's no money to fund them, and then you're going to have to go back to the taxpayers and say we need more tax money, right, to pay for it.
Yes, exactly,
right,
because already the county residents are already complaining about the tax rises in the house taxes and all that. So I mean, because normally Fort Bend County is pretty well managed. It's a tightly knit community, but we are mostly compared with the Montgomery County, actually.
Yeah.
So I think during the pandemic they did. Are you referring to that? Like they did have a long-term plans, and there are
right. They didn't do shutdowns and impact businesses as bad. So you didn't have all the the business needs because and then people were weren't affected as much, and so then some of those funds could be used for redirected to more like infrastructure type things that are going to help them save money in the future
for the longer term.
For the longer term, right? I mean, I always look at that. You have short-term money coming in, and
let's plan for the long term.
What you don't want to do is use it that causes you to commit to money in the future that you won't have, right? So how do I use this money today to reduce cost in the future, right?
That's a good idea, actually.
A lot of things about efficiency and technology. My origin is computer science and technology.
So you're more into fiscals and numbers and all that. Let me, Bill, let me just have a very quick break. We're going to go on a very quick break. We are talking to Bill Rickett with us. He is Treasurer of Fort Bend County. Stay tuned. Welcome back. We are talking to Bill Rickett, Treasurer of Fort Bend County. Bill, before the break, we were talking about some long-term planning and things like that. Now you're in the process of your own campaign. So how do you focus on your campaign? What is the focus of your campaign?
The focus is touching people, right? I mean, I firmly believe that with my background, my ability to work with others, and the successes we've had in implementing some changes within the county in my first term.
Such as, can you tell us what are the changes you have worked on?
Well, first of all, we've improvement of processes and procedures, and putting. When I first came in, I started asking about our business continuity plan, and if you work in business, that's so you can survive a hurricane or survive
any kind
whatever
of catastrophe
comes through. And working internationally, we had more significant things, civil unrest, pirates,
so
it's
wow. So that was an experience at the back. So that pushed you to plan into. That's why I think I can connect it. Like earlier before the break, you said invest in the long-term game.
So we, so I'm like, okay, so what do we do for this? What did we do during Harvey? And we had people jumping through hoops and putting themselves in harm's way, and everything had to be done in the office. So I started looking at how can we work from anywhere, right? So made some big pushes. I had, of course, we got a budget in place, so I had to find money to do for things like laptops and that. So I took a good look at the banking agreement and found where there were some charges that we should be able to get removed and whatever, and free up
Yeah.
money. And so we got money freed up so we could actually do that, implement with laptops, go through and do all the testing. We had to go through all the software, see what works, what doesn't work remotely.
During the COVID, like you needed all that?
Well, before all this, right?
Oh,
So when I first came in, I was like making that big push. And, you know, one of the things came up in that first budgeting cycle is, oh, we need to buy this number of filing cabinets. And I'm like, whoa, I don't buy file cabinets, right? Where's our electronic document management, right? So then they're like, well, they opted out of it. So I'm like, okay, who do I talk to? So we were able, in the first year, we got all the payroll documents all in, you know, cleaned up and in the online system. And now we have all the banking documents on there. We've got all our applications running on laptops. We're able to do, you know, over 95% of the Treasurer's Office functions from anywhere, right? Securely from anywhere. And so when COVID came along, all of a sudden, you know, my team's like, now I understand, right? The urgency, right? So we were in a, you know, so we were in a pretty good position in the Treasurer's Office, because people don't think about, you know, when you're in a crisis situation, you still need to pay bills.
I agree.
You need to pay your employees. You need to pay, you know, you need to move money. You need to be able to do all those things. So it's a very critical part of county government.
Which was not in place before you were in office.
Right.
And you think, like, because you were in the office, you first started cleaning up before COVID, and during the exactly bam there, COVID happened, and situation was controlled.
Yeah.
So okay, for your campaign, like I'm sure, like because when you run for campaigns, there are a lot of public push and pull. So what are your plans once, if you reach the office, if you manage to keep the office once again?
So once we get back in place and moving forward from November, you know, one of the things we need to look at is, especially since all this money available to the public through the pandemic, and we're actually writing checks to the public, because before, you know, you're writing to a limited, like a business, you write to a limited subset, you're writing to your vendors, you're writing to, you know, employees and whatever. Now all of a sudden we're writing checks to the public, and then fraud attempts started to skyrocket.
God,
right?
the fraud attempts.
So
the fraud attempt is so bad right now. Like President Biden has to sign up a bill about it, because every month we are having this. So Fort Bend County has similar issues.
Constantly we have fraud attempts, and you know, one of the things when we were going through the RFP process for a new depository bank, one of the big pushes I was for technology, right? I'm a technology guy. I was familiar with a lot of stuff that could be done in banking. So, you know, that was the big emphasis in the RFP process is bringing more modern banking technology to the table. And one of those things is, you know, businesses typically do, you know, where you're verifying, you send a list of check numbers, and you send a list of amounts, right? And then when the check's clear, they compare it to your list. It's called positive pay, right? And if they don't match, then it comes to you as an exception to approve, right? Well, that doesn't stop check washing, where people change the name on a check or just generate a check where it's actually originally a valid check, but it's been intercepted and changed. So we've, you know, one of the things I insisted on is be able to do payee positive pay, where we're actually checking the payee name, which is more difficult, right? When you check in numbers, it's easier, right, to optically you know, recognize, but then to check a name where you might have a period after a initial, or you might not, or you might, you know, the things that are harder, a lot more to work out. And get all
I need your opinion for this, because you are directly in touch with the commissioner's offices, and you're pushing for, like you said, they wanted to get the cabinets and all that, and you said, no, we need the system in place. Appraisals are skyrocketing. I needed your opinion about that. Like, residents in Fort Bend County are complaining all over. What would your opinion be?
Well, basically, if you look at, you know, what people don't realize, it's a multi-step process, right? So you have the county appraisal district, whose job is to go out and look at the value of homes. Now, they go out to the market, and there's going to be situations where your house isn't done right, because you know, there's something unique about your house, or something unique about the other comparables that caused it to not, and that's why you have a process to protest the value. But in general, property values went up a lot in Fort Bend County.
But then inflation is there. People cannot pay, and it's just we just got out of the
But
pandemic.
it's a multiple step, right? So first of all, the state legislature has rules in place where if it's your homestead, right?
Yeah.
The homestead exemption includes a 10% cap on how much you pay on,
Yeah,
right?
that's true.
So even though if your house goes up 30% in value,
But
your taxable value only goes up 10% each year.
It's just a cap over there.
Right, it's a cap. Now that doesn't mean you're going to pay more taxes.
Yeah,
That just says that's the value of your home you're going to be taxed on. Then each taxing entity goes out and they determine, based on the values that are reported to them from the CAD,
Okay.
what they're going to set their tax rate at.
Oh, okay.
So they can set a tax rate, even though your house goes up 10%, they can set a tax rate that's lower that causes how much you actually pay to go down. And across the county, for county government and cities, we are capped at on existing homes or buildings or whatever tax base at 3.5% growth over the previous year, right? So that doesn't include new buildings. That's all that new taxable base is outside of that. But everything that exists already. So across the county, for the county, we can only adopt a tax rate that at most raises how much revenue we get in total from those existing properties by 3.5%. Now that means, so that once again, that's another safeguard that's in place, right, to keep you from, getting driven out.
Too much money taken out of our wallet.
But you can go over that 3.5%, but you got to put it to a vote for the residents, for the voters, right? So then it comes to a vote if the tax rate is going to cause it to be more than 3.5%.
Yeah.
Now for school districts, that cap is 2.5%.
Okay.
Right. So and the school district is almost half of what you pay in your tax bill.
Yeah.
The county's about 18%.
Okay.
About 18%.
Oh, these are serious numbers, because I'm
Yeah.
like a regular resident of Fort Bend County, I would be just saying, no, this is becoming too much.
Yeah.
And now you have explained.
But you have the CAD that sets the value. Commissioner's Court that set, or the school board or whoever sets the tax rate for each entity, and then the tax collector, assessor, sends out the bills and collects your money, and then from that money, we get that piece that's for the county, right?
Okay, last question, but very quickly, I'm going to wrap up after that. So there is a sentiment in Fort Bend County, like people feel like, oh, women, minorities not represented correctly. Is that correct?
I would not say that's correct at all. I mean, women, minority. I mean, if you look at my office,
when I go to the county,
there's 11 women and me. Okay. So I would not say, and I would say throughout county government, I would say women are well represented. I would say, as in anything, there's always, when you have a changing community, there's going to be a lag in because people have to retire, people have to whatever before. More people come in, and then over time you see a transition.
So you think this is just an allegation? There's no reality to it?
No, I don't think. I think Fort Bend County is probably one of the most open, the county itself, and I would say the residents in general, in whether you're a business or whether you're whatever. Like I said, I worked in the oil industry, and I worked with people from all over, from Asia to South America to Europe to whatever, and living here is like living where I worked, right? And having people work for me, from very diverse cultures, and having to and looking at some of the challenges in those other places, and I'll go here for a minute. I mean, we're always accused here in the U.S. of racism and all this. I've seen some of the more blatant, prejudice and mistreatment of individuals by other individuals in other places in the world. In the world, not in Fort Bend County. Not in Fort Bend County, right? I mean, I think we have, now you're always going to have
some of the
bad people. You're always going to have people with a bias or whatever, but I think, you can't judge these the community by a few exceptions here and there that occur.
All
You
right.
have to look at
The bigger
community
picture.
as a whole, and how we all work together. I've been going around, all these back to school campaigns of helping out those in need, and
Yeah.
it's just so wonderful to see our community coming together.
Yeah, specifically after the pandemic.
All the different charities
Yeah.
and nonprofits all working together in
creating something, helping everybody.
And I can say, having worked in Europe and spent a lot of time in Europe where government has taken over many of those functions.
But people don't stay involved. But
people don't stay involved, and it's not personal, and I don't think there's as much results than here, where you have individuals making decisions about how they're going to spend their time and how they're going to spend their money.
I agree.
Taking that personal responsibility to help those around them.
Thank you so much, Bill, for giving us time and giving us all the opinions. And thank you once again. Thank you so much. Election campaigns matter in a variety of important ways. As essential components of democratic politics, election campaigns attract attention from across board, especially for the local residents. Campaigns and campaign activities, including advertising, spending, field operations, and candidates' aggregate effects, is important for both the candidates and their voters. We, as journalists or memorists or historians, are just doing our part in bringing these candidates in front of the camera for you to listen and decide. Trust me, it's more important to vote now than ever. I'm Sophia Jamal, and you're watching Truth Be Told with me.